Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the English Learning Podcast. I'm Jason, your host, and as always, I'm here with my amazing co-host, Julia.
Hi, friends. I'm so excited to be here today. We have a very interesting topic for you. Train your brain for English in 2026.
That's right. You know, learning English isn't just about memorizing words or grammar rules. It's about training your brain to think in English.
Exactly. And in 2026, we have so many new ways to make learning faster and more fun. Today, we're going to share practical tips and simple steps that will help you train your brain to learn English more effectively.
And don't worry, these tips are easy to follow, even if you're a beginner. By the end of this episode, your brain will be ready to absorb English like never before.
So, get ready, friends. We're going to show you how to make English learning a daily habit that actually sticks.
Yes, and we'll also give you some cool exercises you can start today, so your brain can start working for you, not against you.
Awesome. Let's dive in and see how our brains really learn English.
So, Julia, before we jump into practical tips, let's talk a little about how our brain actually learns a language. I think many people don't realize that learning English isn't just about studying. It's about how our brain works.
Absolutely, Jason. Our brain is like a supercomputer. Every time we learn a new word, sentence, or sound, we create connections in our brain called neurons. The more we practice, the stronger these connections become.
Right. And here's a fun fact. Our brains are plastic, which means they can change and grow at any age. So even if you're learning English as an adult, your brain can still adapt and get better every day.
Yes. And one key idea is repetition. If you hear or use English words regularly, your brain starts to remember them naturally. That's why small daily practice is much more powerful than long, rare study sessions.
Another important thing is active learning. It's not enough to just listen or read. Your brain remembers more when you speak, write, or even think in English. The more active you are, the faster your brain builds those English connections.
Exactly. And something I love to tell learners is, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Every mistake is actually your brain learning something new. Mistakes create stronger connections than just repeating things perfectly.
So to sum up, learning English isn't magic. It's science. Your brain can adapt, grow, and remember if you use it regularly, actively, and confidently.
And in the next part, we'll show you practical steps to train your brain every day, so English becomes natural and easy for you.
All right, Julia. Now that we understand a bit about how our brain learns, let's talk about the first step to train your brain for English: creating a daily English routine.
Yes, this is super important, Jason. Consistency is key. Even just 5 to 10 minutes every day is much more effective than studying for 2 hours once a week.
Exactly. You can start with simple habits, like listening to an English podcast while having breakfast, or reading a few sentences from an English book before bed.
And don't forget speaking. Even if it's just talking to yourself in English for a few minutes, it trains your brain to think in English, not just translate from your native language.
Right. Another tip is to mix your routine with different activities: listening, reading, speaking, and writing. This way, your brain gets trained in all areas and it won't get bored.
For example, you could listen to an English podcast for 5 minutes in the morning, speak or repeat a few sentences aloud while commuting, write a short note in English in the evening.
And the best part is, once you turn these steps into a daily habit, your brain starts automatically recognizing patterns in English, like grammar and sentence structure. You'll notice that learning new words becomes much easier, too.
Exactly. So the key takeaway here is, small, consistent daily practice beats long, rare study sessions. Even 10 minutes every day is powerful if you do it consistently.
Great! And in the next step, we'll show how to use your brain actively to make learning even faster. All right, Julia, we talked about creating a daily routine. Now, the next step is using your brain actively. This is where real learning happens.
Yes, passive learning, like just listening to English or reading without thinking, doesn't train your brain as effectively. Active learning is when your brain is fully involved, like speaking, repeating, or summarizing.
Exactly. For example, instead of just listening to an English podcast, you can pause and repeat sentences aloud, or try to explain what you just heard in your own words. That makes your brain work and remember better.
Another great tip is asking yourself questions in English. For example, if you read a short story, ask yourself, who is in the story? What happened? How did it end? This forces your brain to process English, not just recognize it.
And don't forget, teaching yourself. Even if no one is around, pretend you're the teacher. Explain a new word or phrase to an imaginary student. Teaching is one of the fastest ways your brain can remember something.
Yes. And one more thing, challenge your brain a little every day. Don't just stick to what's easy. If you know a few words, try making sentences with them. If you can understand simple stories, try listening to slightly harder content. Your brain grows faster when it's challenged.
Exactly. So the key here is, active learning beats passive learning. Speak, write, summarize, question yourself, and challenge your brain every day.
Perfect. And in the next step, we'll talk about using smart tools in 2026 to make this even easier and more effective.
All right, Julia. We've learned about daily routines and using our brain actively. Now, in 2026, we have amazing smart tools that can help train our brain even faster.
Yes, Jason, technology has come a long way. There are apps, AI tools, and websites that make learning English fun and effective. And the best part? You can use them anywhere, anytime.
For example, there are language learning apps that help you practice speaking and listening. They can correct your pronunciation and even give you daily challenges to keep your brain engaged.
And don't forget AI chatbots. You can chat with them in English to practice real conversations. Your brain gets trained to respond quickly in English, just like talking with a real person.
Exactly. Another great tool is flashcard apps for vocabulary. They use something called spaced repetition, which helps your brain remember words for the long term instead of forgetting them after a few days.
And if you like videos, there are English learning channels with subtitles. Watching and reading at the same time trains your brain to connect sounds with words faster.
The key here is to choose tools that match your level and your interests. Don't overwhelm yourself with too many apps. Pick a few that you enjoy and use them consistently.
Yes, and combining these tools with your daily routine and active practice makes your brain super ready to learn English in 2026.
Absolutely. Smart tools don't replace effort, but they make your effort more effective and enjoyable.
Perfect. And next, we'll talk about memory techniques for English, which will help your brain remember words and sentences even faster.
All right, Julia. Now that we know about daily routines, active learning, and smart tools, it's time for memory techniques. This is how we help our brain remember English words and phrases more easily.
Yes, one powerful technique is visualization. For example, if you learn the word apple, imagine a bright red apple in your mind. Your brain remembers pictures better than just words.
Exactly. Another technique is chunking. Instead of memorizing single words, group them together. For example, instead of learning eat, sleep, drink separately, remember them as a small story. I eat, then I sleep, then I drink.
And don't forget mnemonics. This is when you create a simple phrase or rhyme to remember something. For example, to remember the word enormous, you might say enormous, so big like an enormous elephant.
The key is to make learning fun and memorable. When you use your imagination, your brain creates stronger connections, so you don't forget words easily.
Exactly. And if you combine memory techniques with your daily routine, active learning, and smart tools, your brain will become a super English learning machine.
Awesome! Next, we'll talk about common mistakes learners make and how to avoid them. All right, Julia, now that we know how to train our brains effectively, let's talk about some common mistakes learners make.
Yes, Jason. One big mistake is cramming, trying to learn too much at once. Your brain can't remember everything if you overload it. Small daily practice is much more effective.
Exactly. Another mistake is multitasking. For example, listening to English while scrolling social media or watching TV. Your brain doesn't fully focus, so it doesn't learn properly.
And don't forget skipping speaking practice. Many learners focus only on reading or listening, but your brain needs to actively produce English to remember it. Speaking regularly is essential.
Also, some learners get discouraged too quickly. They expect instant results, but the brain needs time to build connections. Patience and consistency are key.
So the takeaway is, avoid cramming, focus fully, speak often, and stay patient. These small changes will make a big difference in how your brain learns English.
Exactly. And in the next step, we'll talk about motivation and mindset, which is just as important as training your brain. All right, Julia. We've covered routines, active learning, smart tools, memory techniques, and common mistakes. Now let's talk about something equally important: motivation and mindset.
Yes, your brain can only work well if your mind is positive and motivated. If you feel stressed or discouraged, it's harder to learn.
Exactly. One tip is to set small, achievable goals. For example, learn 5 new words a day or speak in English for 5 minutes. Achieving small goals keeps your brain and mind motivated.
And don't forget to celebrate progress, even the tiny steps. Every word you learn and every sentence you speak strengthens your brain and builds your confidence.
The key is to stay patient and persistent. Training your brain for English is a journey, and a positive mindset makes the journey much faster and more enjoyable.
Absolutely. And now, to make it practical, we'll share a quick daily brain exercise challenge that you can start today.
All right, Julia. Now it's time for a quick daily brain exercise that our listeners can start today. Are you ready?
Absolutely, Jason. This is simple but super effective. It only takes 5 minutes a day.
Here's what to do. Pick 5 new English words today. First, write them down. Then, say each word aloud and make a sentence with it. Finally, visualize the word in your mind as you speak it.
Yes. And if you want to make it even more fun, try to use these words in a short story or conversation with yourself or a friend. Your brain will remember the words faster because you are actively using them.
Exactly. Doing this for just 5 minutes every day trains your brain to think in English and builds your confidence at the same time.
So, listeners, start today. Pick 5 words, speak, write, and imagine. Make it a daily habit, and you'll see amazing results in just a few weeks.
Perfect. And now, let's wrap up with a summary and a call to action. All right, Julia, let's quickly summarize what we learned today.
Yes, we talked about training your brain for English in 2026, starting with a daily routine, using your brain actively, using smart tools, practicing memory techniques, and avoiding common mistakes.
And we also shared tips on staying motivated, keeping a positive mindset, and a quick 5-minute daily brain exercise you can start today.
Exactly. Remember, small, consistent steps every day will make your brain stronger and help you learn English faster and easier.
So friends, start today. Train your brain, stay active, and make learning English a fun daily habit.
If you enjoyed this podcast, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with friends who want to learn English too. And of course, join us next time for more tips and tricks.
Thanks for listening, and keep training your brain.